Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Automotive Podcast. Oh no.
You sounded so concerned. like a fish had jumped into your boat. Oh no.
You think that's what I sound like when I'm concerned? Oh no. Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Automotive Podcast. My name is Sami Hadjasad, and with me as always is my good friend and fellow automotive journalist, Benjamin Hunting. Say hi to the people, Ben.
Greetings, summertime listeners.
Did you hear that? My voice kind of cracked on hi to the people.
I just tuned it out.
I know, you wait for a cue. I don't know what it is exactly, but you get it.
I've also lost the ability to hear certain frequencies in my left ear, and that's the ear that you're in. So it really
I'm physically in your ear right now.
It smooths out a lot of what you say.
It is the easiest way to do this podcast for me to be in your ear.
Yeah.
Ben is a automotive journalist, but more important than that, he's one of my very close friends. I think we're very good friends. I would say that. That's my way of defining our relationship. I'm going to stick with it through the whole show, and hopefully we stay really good friends by the end of it, or else the show won't continue. Balls in your court now, Ben.
Yeah, you might notice Sammy's a little more frenetic than usual. It's because he's not sleeping anymore at all.
Between two children, actually, my first one is now forgetting how to sleep, and I have to manage that as well.
Is he forgetting how to sleep or relearning how to be awake?
Yeah, he is having night terrors. I don't know what that's all about. But
I had those as a child. I mean, I've been told. I don't remember a lot of them, thankfully. I think the body is designed to forget night terrors. Hopefully it's the same for your child as well.
I hope so too. I sleep peacefully from 7:38 to about midnight or 1 when I wake up to a horrifying crying from my older son, who honestly it sounds like he's being killed in his sleep or something is on fire or something awful. It is the worst sound I've ever heard. And my heart starts racing. I jump out of bed. I go to his room and he's like, "Daddy, can I have a glass of water?" And I'm like, "Bro, you've got a bottle of water in your bed." And he goes, "Can you sing me a song?" And I sing him a song and he goes back to sleep.
The solution to this is earplugs.
I know, but he keeps going. He ramps it up until I show up.
What about some type of automated recording that plays a song for him when he screams?
He hates automated recording versions of our song. He thinks it's so eerie. He's like, "Yeah, stop that."
He's ahead of the curve. I mean, what's more eerie, the recording of your voice or the terrifying night screams? It's like
he doesn't hear the terrifying night screams, I think. And when I confront him about it the next day, he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, he's trying to gaslight you.
He's like, "Daddy, I slept so well last night." And I'm like on my third cup of coffee at 7 a.m, being like, "Sure, bro." Like, I don't think so.
And your son gets through the day on 1 cup of coffee, so that's pretty impressive.
And anyways, this is a whole story for another show. I don't know what the Unnamed Child Experience podcast.
Child Experience would probably be a good podcast, I think.
I think that would be the worst one. Trying to explain to people who don't have children how awful of an idea it is to have children, but also is hilarious. It's great concept,
we're going to celebrate Sammy's lack of sleep by having him go first on the podcast this week. Where he's going to try to pierce together a narrative about a vehicle that we drove on the podcast, I think more than a year ago, but we drove a very different version of that. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. So when we say we have driven this car, we're talking about the car that we drove, mostly you.
Almost entirely me, in fact.
The newest generation of the Toyota 4Runner. Which is like redesigned. It's like a whole new thing. I think it shares a lot in common with the, I hope I don't mess this up, Tundra. Let's say it's a Tundra.
Look, every Toyota at this point is some variant of TNGA, so you're pretty safe.
And one of the major things that they redid with this new generation is swap out the old 4-liter V6 for some turbocharged 4-cylinder action.
I mean, that's not all they did, right? Like,
oh no, that's all they did. Then they called it a day. They called it a frontier. They left. Okay,
we were in a world where the
4Runner.
The 4Runner had been around for like 15 years, unchanged.
Yeah, untouched.
I think since 2009 or something. Some
they
crazy
even still
thing like
had
that.
The digital clock.
Shout out Corollas. Corollas, we all thought that they would keep
and a
that
5-speed automatic or something.
The worst transmission on the market. That was a transmission. It was matched with a 4-liter V6.
Yeah.
And you would be on the highway and it was just screaming for a sixth gear. Like it just really wanted it so bad.
They changed it by the time this new generation came out.
What do you mean they changed it? What are you saying?
Was it not a 6 or 8 by the time?
Nothing about the drivetrain has changed
until this
in 15 years. And that's why the Toyota 4Runner sales numbers are the craziest thing in the auto industry, because they were selling 100,000 of these at least every year to people who didn't care about any of the things I just said in a world where there are much better alternatives to this vehicle, or at least much more modern alternatives. I'm not going to talk down the 4Runner. I understand why people like it. It has some anachronisms that are difficult to match on the modern automotive market. I am someone whose newest car is like 24 years old, so I can't really throw stones here. And I understand why people would want an old school feeling thing. But you were paying very new prices for this old school experience, which is hard to justify, I think.
I think the funnier thing about the 4Runner, this new generation 4Runner, is it came alongside a new generation Land Cruiser, which moved the Land Cruiser in North America in a whole new direction.
You mean downwardly mobile?
Yeah, and priced it around the same price of this thing, if I remember correctly.
It was almost like a dare. It was like, like there's some kind of weird, like it was like one of those 90s movies where they have a bet that they can turn someone into the prom king or the prom queen, and they do it secretly. And it was two Toyota project managers. They're like, well, I bet I can make the Land Rover still be cool, even if it's no longer, sorry, the Land Cruiser still be cool, even if it's no longer luxurious or large or unique in any way. And the 4Runner person was like, you're on. Let's do this.
Pretty much.
Spoiler alert to people who haven't seen the movie. The 4Runner person won. It is by far the better buy at any price point.
It's weird because I prefer the Land Cruiser styling, but if you want the real Land Cruiser, it's actually the Lexus GX because it has a better powertrain.
Okay, well, the fact that we even have to say things like real Land Cruiser, I think is an indicator of the problem that we have here.
Yes. But let's talk about this 4Runner that I've been driving. I have limited experience with the 4Runner. This is my first time I've gotten to drive it. It is a car that looks huge on the outside, is not quite that big on the inside. I had some struggles carrying some furniture from IKEA, some flat packed furniture.
What kind of struggles? Was it too wide?
It was it was not long enough.
Okay. Well, even with the seats down?
Yeah.
What were you buying, if you don't mind me asking?
A
day bed. So it was probably like
twin-sized day bed.
6 feet? Is that accurate?
At least, yeah.
Okay. And the mattress was what you couldn't fit inside?
No, the mattress is rolled up.
Oh, okay. I always forget that everything comes rolled up these days.
Yeah.
I'm always super surprised by that. I don't know why.
Anyway, so I had difficulties doing that. I tried to convince my wife to let me let half of the daybed hang out, like this flat packed furniture hang out the window, because that's the neat feature of the 4Runner. She was not having any of it. So.
I do that all the time with my Jeep.
I know. Well, isn't your window permanently down?
No, I fixed that.
Oh, good. Perfect. Yeah. By putting something in it.
No, by fixing the safety switch.
Okay.
Yeah.
It also barely fits my kids' rear-facing car seats without impacting my what's it called? My seating position. So interior space, not particularly a highlight of the 4Runner. I will say there are some things that are pretty good about it. First of all, exterior design, beautiful, perfect looking car. It is a traditional look with a little bit of modernism to it, especially when you notice like the headlights and the wheel design. I think they do a really good job of taking the 4Runner design, which is kind of classical. And as you know, the last generation lasted like what felt a decade and a half, and modernizing it just enough to let you know that this is a new version of this truck without being too much. And then the cabin is an interesting place. I've got some cloth seats. I will actually talk about this trim level in particular. It's a TRD Sport version of the 4Runner, which, as far as I understand, is I think like second or third. So in Canada, it's the second from the bottom, and I think in the US, it's third from the bottom.
So this is pretty basic then.
Oh no, sorry. In US, it's second from the bottom, and in Canada, it is. I'm building and pricing. I'm building and pricing.
Come on.
It is also second from the bottom.
Wow, that was a real letdown.
So you can get a basic version. It's called the SR5, I believe.
Yeah.
What does SR5 stand for?
It stands for you need to get a promotion. Toyota is telling you that you can't afford to buy the 4Runner. No, I'm kidding. SR5 used to be a pretty cool stripped down version of the truck where you could of their like the pickup, the Tacoma, the 4Runner, where you basically got nothing. Like you got all the stuff that you would want to, I guess, pre-run or go on a trail. I think you could get like a 2-wheel drive SR5 version, but you didn't have to pay for like luxuries that you didn't want. And the reason I joke about the whole promotion thing is because it feels like SR5 has just grown in price since then, and it no longer really lines up with the value aspect that I think it originally did. I could be wrong about that, but that's my general feeling about the SR5 trim.
I will say this TRD Sport has a pretty good look as well. I mentioned this one, instead of having 17 inch wheels on the SR5, has 20-inch wheels. There's also big old knobby top. No, thank you.
Well, think about, I just want to say 20-inch tires are expensive, and jumping from 17s to 20, it just kind of feels like disrespectful, you know? Like, what if I don't care about, I don't get 20-inch wheels on a vehicle that's designed for off-road.
On a truck.
I'm going to say it.
Okay. I think I agree with you on this.
I mean, you'd have to have so much sidewall to protect them versus a 17 where you can fill the wheel well and still have like decent sidewall without going crazy. You know what I mean?
I actually totally agree with you on this. I didn't realize just how big the difference was. And if you had asked me, without me looking at the spec sheet, what kind of wheels are on there, I'd probably guess that they were like 18s or 19s. But you're right, 20s kind of don't fit. Do Wranglers come with 20s? Do Broncos come with 20s?
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming they can have them, but I think that all the hardcore Wranglers are 18-inch maximum.
So this is the other
thing. They might
be
17s.
Despite its name as a TRD Sport, I think the sport part is doing more of the heavy lifting than the TRD part.
Yeah, it's not.
Which I tend to believe that TRD leans more in the truck side of things, tend to lean more towards off-roading, right?
No, I mean TRD just means performance, right? And we all remember the X-Runner.
We all remember the X-Runner. But for the people who not on this podcast, obviously, but maybe some of the listeners who don't know what the 4Runner X-Runner is.
No, not the 4Runner X-Runner, the Tacoma X-Runner. It was the slammed version of the truck. It had a suspension upgrades. You could get a factory supercharger for it. It was sold in the late 2000s.
During the sport truck craze.
Yeah, exactly. Just before
when there was was that when the Lightning was around too?
Yeah, the Lightning had died like a few years beforehand, or I think they might have overlapped for a couple of years. The Lightning was replaced by the Raptor in 2008, I believe. So right around the time the X-Runner was around, the Raptor was about to kill all sport trucks, which is unfortunate. But all just to say, like TRD, I mean, their NASCAR team is a TRD team.
That's true, I guess. So, that's why I was saying, but I guess they have a NASCAR. They have a NASCAR truck?
They have a NASCAR truck, but they also have a NASCAR car, and it's...
No, that's what I was saying, though. I think when you associate TRD with the trucks...
No, I think you have to look at the second word. I think that's the modifier. So you have a TRD Sport, which is like performance for the street, and then you have TRD Off-Road, which is very self-explanatory. I'm assuming...
I have...
No, go on.
I have no idea what the sport part of this is supposed to actually... relate to, because it's not sporty at all.
What is not sporty about it?
It's not stiff. It's not like fast.
Does it have body colored bumpers?
Is that what sporty? Does
it have like a body colored grill?
Yeah, a honeycomb grill. Okay. And over fenders.
What about black mirrors?
No, I mean my truck is kind of gray anyway. So
okay.
I have. They say sport tune suspension. I don't know what they're feeling. I don't know what how they define that in any way.
Well, you'll need to drive an SR5 to find out. Wait, no, you're in an SR5.
So. Apparently, you can get a 7-seater version of the SR5. Did you know that?
That makes sense.
That's crazy.
I don't know why anyone would want a 7-seater 4Runner to begin with. We've often talked about how 3-row SUVs don't make sense unless they're a certain size, and 4Runner is kind of a good example of that, I think.
But I mean, there was that episode that you did with Chad where you talked about the Sequoia's third row and how bad it was.
Yeah.
surprise, there's a worse third row out there, and
Yeah, but the Sequoia is much
4Runner.
larger. It's not a
Yeah.
surprise that the 4Runners is worse, you know? I mean, shout out to the Mitsubishi Outlander, the king of bad third row SUVs. I mean, the SUV is great. The third row is terrible.
Okay, speaking of performance figures here, or performance in general, the output of this thing, I think, measures in at about the same as the old 4-liter V6, because I do not have the iForce Max version of the powertrain.
That's what I drove, right? In the Trailseeker.
Which I think is a hybrid,
Trail
right?
Hunter. Yeah, it's a hybrid. It's the iForce Max.
I have iForce non-Max, min, maybe.
iForce Min.
Min.
That was a controversial branding.
Yes. I like the concept of iForce Max. It just feels like it was named by a Nike executive or something. So this makes 278 horsepower, which is, I think, just around the same output as the old V6. It has 317 pound-feet of torque, which means that it often feels much more responsive than fast. Like, I don't know if that means anything to you. Like, it feels like it's about to do something, but doesn't really get going for a while. It has to, like... And you hear this little turbo or big turbo whining for its life all the time. It sounds like, you know, when you have a supercharged SRT product.
Yes.
And you know, you can hear that awesome supercharger whine all the time, right?
So when I had the Trail Hunter version, it had the snorkel, and the snorkel pulls the air from directly beside the driver's passenger's window, and you can't have the window down while you're driving because all you get is turbo induction sound, like amplified by this 4-foot tube that's coming out of the side of the car. It was horrible.
So this one, you just have this constant whistle, weep, 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 and it just sounds so funny.
That is funny.
And my model in particular has the four-wheel drive. You get to select 2-wheel drive, 4 high and 4 low. And it has a couple of drive modes that I toyed around with before settling on the eco mode, because I drive mostly in city and I don't need sport or normal all that much. Some of the things I really liked about the cabin, I've got these really cool, like, blue accents, like really aggressively blue accents inside the vehicle. On the dash and on the door panels. It's something that stood out to my toddler. He was like, whoa, it's blue. And the cloth seats are surprisingly comfortable as well. The rear seats, they have a very upright seating position, but they recline, so you can get a little bit more comfort. It feels like it's made for maybe a bit more like utilitarian use. And when you fold them, they can also fold, they can like tumble forward rather than just fold forward. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
They're like front hinged as well.
So the seats in my Pathfinder, they do like a weird tumble forward where the bottom cushions like pop up and then tumble forward, and then the other seats kind of fold down where those cushions were. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
And the headrests have to come out. It was like, I guess early on when they didn't necessarily have the technology to do it any other way.
Seat.
Yeah, they're like, we're still figuring out this whole hinge thing.
Mm-hmm. So I will say that all of these like things kind of add up to what I would define as a somewhat, I'm going to say it crudely, mediocre kind of car. Like, wow. In this trim level and this size, I was expecting either a little bit more performance or a little bit more space or a little bit more like oomph.
What's this up against? Like, what are you comparing it to?
Just let me finish here. Okay. Well, first of all, the Land Cruiser, but but I will say that once you start driving it, the car feels actually surprisingly comfortable to drive. It feels a little bit more substantial than the Tundra that I drove maybe a few months ago. Remember when I drove a manual Tundra and I was like, this is kind of not great.
Tacoma.
Oof. Yes. The manual Tacoma. And I was like, this is kind of not great.
Yeah.
And this feels a little bit more substantial and easier to drive, more fun to drive than that. I like the responsiveness. I like the feeling of the wheels. I like the suspension is well sorted out. I will agree here. And I also believe that the ride quality is solid. I think driving through Hamilton, which has not seen, I don't think we have our paver or our pothole unit must be on loan to another city or something. I don't know how they fix our roads around here, but they don't. So we just deal with it until we get our money back, I guess. And as a result, I get to drive through what feels like the moon. And this thing really dealt with it pretty nicely. I was happy with that. But as I said, I just feel like it's an okay kind of truck. And I think you were trying to ask me what would I see this comparing to. I have a couple of ideas. You probably won't like any of them, but I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Land Cruiser.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, it's clearly a superior vehicle.
Yes. This is better than a Land Cruiser for sure.
And I want to say, I really liked the
Hybrid?
Trail Hunter that I had.
Yeah, I bet you this thing would be a totally different story when I had that.
I didn't like the price, but I did like the vehicle.
This model starts at $48,000 in the US, while in Canada mine is a whopping 63,000.
Ooh, and that's for the second from the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Hit me with the Trailseeker, the Trail Hunter price.
The Trail Hunter price in the US. Let me just click a bunch. 68,400. Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and in Canada, I think it's like 80 something.
That's also way too much money. My Canadian site stopped working. Is that normal?
No, I mean, were you rude to it?
Yeah, kind of. Oh, I'm back.
Okay.
Trail Hunter. Oh, that's way too much money. Holy cow! They can't be allowed to sell it like this.
How much is it? 80? Was that right?
You're closer to 90. $88,736 in Canada.
There's no
Canadian.
way.
Fight back.
You can't justify that price for a Trail Hunter. As much as I liked it, I did not like it enough to like sell a kidney or, you know.
But like I was saying, the difference I would say in my expectation versus my expectation or my impression versus yours is this would be a far more well-rounded and more impressive offering if I had the turbocharged price. If I had the hybrid price for the turbocharged money, you know what I mean? That's a crazy ask.
No, but what it sounds like you're saying is that this base engine is a mistake.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Any argument to that?
I haven't driven it.
You would be disappointed.
I've driven it in the Tacoma, but the Tacoma is, I think, lighter.
Yeah.
And it might not have been as much of a problem. Also, my expectations for like a midsize pickup are different.
Yeah, I have the highest expectations. You have the lowest. Right?
I'm sorry, the lowest what?
Expectation.
No, not the lowest, but just like in terms of when I'm in a pickup, often what I'm thinking about is how the drivetrain is going to inform when I'm doing pickup things.
Right.
Like when I'm towing, when I'm hauling, commuting is part of it, but it's not the only part. But when I'm in an SUV like the Pathfinder, you have to think about off-roading. Towing is part of it, which I did tow with the Trail Hunter that I had. But I think the daily drive is like a bigger factor.
And I think this thing kind of falls apart on the daily drive, especially because, as I mentioned, this powertrain I think is offered in the Land Cruiser. Land Cruiser doesn't despite the name, doesn't try to hit you with too much off-roading like garnishes. And I think
they want you to pay another $30,000 for those.
Yeah, I think if you're looking in this entry-level side of things, probably Land Cruiser is a better pick. But if you're willing to spend on the hybrid powertrain, then the 4Runner is definitely worth it.
I really can't see a world where the Land Cruiser is a better pick based on what you're saying, because I think if you look at the equipment that comes with the Land Cruiser versus price, I just don't think it compares well against the 4Runner.
The other things that I would say I think might compete to this, I always think Defender. I think Defender is a good option.
Maybe at the top end, right?
You really think the top end of the 4Runner?
Yeah, the top end of the 4Runner, because the 4Runner undercuts it by I think 15,000 minimum.
The entry level Defender,
and also the entry level Defender is a 2-door, so that kind of pushes it into a weird category of people who are buying it because they want it, not necessarily for practical reasons, right? So you kind of have to look at the one.
Check.
You have to look at the 110 at that point.
I'm looking at the 110.
Okay,
and I'm looking at Canadian pricing though. Will you?
Oh, Canadian pricing is going to be. I have no idea. I want to say it starts at 70 or something.
Yeah.
Does it?
I've changed tactic ever since you said something.
What is
that suggested otherwise? 78 is the 110.
So you're almost at Trail Hunter category.
Yes,
100%. So I don't think it's a great competitor.
Okay.
Personally.
What about...
I agree that they do the same thing in a lot of ways.
And I would prefer the way that this vendor does it.
Yeah, I don't think I could argue with that.
Don't argue with it.
I won't.
65 for the in the US. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So then, in addition to that, I guess you would look at something like a Bronco, or a Wrangler.
And at that point, you're really starting to sacrifice comfort and day-to-day utility, I think.
I think Bronco has some pretty decent day-to-day usability and comfort.
It really depends on the trim level,
right?
And also, you're
but
starting
remember,
to get...
we're looking at the entry level. I'm currently driving a relatively entry level 4Runner.
Sure, but I'm not necessarily talking about amenities so much as I'm talking about you're going from a vehicle with a roof to one that has a canvas or vinyl roof, unless you pay more for a hardtop that you can remove and rattles around and stuff. And I just don't find the Bronco as compelling on road as the 4Runner is. I think the 4Runner has better manners. The Wrangler,
I mentioned that. I really do like the manners. I just found it to be slow.
The Wrangler is like in another category that,
you
know, again, it's like the two-door Defender. You're buying it because that's what you want. You're not making a logical decision there, unless you're exclusively buying for off-road capability, in which case, I mean, the logic is sound.
So that makes it, that does all that, like, talking through it helps decide that the 4Runner is a very distinct package in this kind of world of capable.
I think that's kind of what kept it selling at 100,000 units long past the point it was actually competitive.
Is it still selling at that rate, do you think?
I would think so. I haven't looked, but I don't see why it wouldn't. Check. I mean, the Pathfinder is a uniform for a lot of people. They bought one, they really liked it. They bought another
4Runner.
4Runner. They're just going to keep buying it.
Yeah, that's true. Wow.
I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but a lot of Toyotas are like that. No, but I had a friend.
Okay, so sales have kind of U.S. sales have petered off since the redesign in 24. Not a lot. They went from 109,000, 121. Sorry, wow, they really had a lot. Let's go for the recent peak, which is in 2021, 144,000 units sold.
Okay,
in the U.S. Down in 22, they sold about $20,000 units fewer. In 23, about 18,000 units or 13,000 units fewer. And now in 2024, we're under 100,000. In 25, we're under 100,000. And in 26, although this seems pretty good, at 26 right now, we're at 85,000.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be above 100, I would say.
Up. Okay.
I had a friend many years ago when we were talking about Toyota sales, specifically Camry, I think. But it was a vehicle that we were looking at. It might not have been Camry. It might have been the Corolla. Just a vehicle that we were looking at and being like, why do people buy this specifically when there are other vehicles that are either as good or maybe better? And he looked at me and he said, do as you're told. And in that voice. And I think that is like, that stuck with me as the perfect encapsulation of how Toyota has managed to stay on top for so long. They've cultivated a reputation that makes them seem like the best option. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, but it doesn't matter because if you're already in the Toyota family, you're probably going to buy another one and you're probably not going to be disappointed by that. And I think that Toyota spent a long time catering to the idea of not disappointing longtime buyers more than pushing their vehicles in a direction that might be adventurous or risk-taking or, you know, and that's why the 4Runner stayed as it was for so long. I think the Camry was kind of mired in that for a while where it was good, but it wasn't amazing. And then I think the last few generations of it really picked things up.
Yeah, they were designing a car for their audience and not the competition.
Yeah, Lexus is the ultimate example of all of that.
Which is a weird way to describe it because the competition sometimes likes to push things forward and make themselves feel like it's worth the conquest or whatever you want to call it, crossing the street to another dealership, while Toyota just says, you've already got a Toyota. You're already in a relationship with us. Yeah. Just check it out.
Come buy another one 10 years later.
Yeah.
You know? But Lexus is, I think, even more so of this. I mean, the ES was not competitive for a very long time, but it sold well. Because
and the RX was the same thing for a really long time.
Like, yeah, but I think the RX was able to coast a bit on on the fact that it was an innovator at first. Also, the hybrid aspect. But the ES is like a weird example because there weren't really any other companies making like front wheel drive hybrid 4-door sedans with no personality, right? Like
Luxury Camry.
yeah, that wasn't really their deal. Like no one was kind of making that the forefront of their marketing. And yet the ES, I think, was just behind the RX in terms of sales. Like it was a very, very popular vehicle.
The thing I wanted to say about Toyota, while we're on the subject of the automaker as a whole, is that they have the biggest lineup of cars I've ever seen on the market right now, in sale for North America.
They have more sports cars for sale than any other company, any other.
They have more of
company.
everything. Just look at how many cars they're offering. Okay, sure, they double up things like the Prius and the Prius plug-in. Sure, I don't care about that.
No, that's one car to me.
That's one car, yes, but like RAV4, Crown Signia, Highlander, Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross is like a wild lineup of SUVs. And then that's before you even mentioned the 4Runner, Land Cruiser, and Sequoia. Like, those are crazy. That's like, to many other automakers are paring down their offerings all the time. Like,
yeah, but
we get told how many cars are being killed off every year.
Look at
Toyota's adding stuff to the lineup.
Look at it this way. Toyota is basically GM if Chevrolet and GMC and Buick were the same thing. You know, that kind of feels how they have things positioned, because there's no Buick pickup, right?
No,
but Buick has like 4 SUVs that they could add to the lineup. In theory, you'd have to get rid of some of the cross stuff, but I think you could keep the Invista and the Trax under the same banner. I think that would work.
That's interesting.
You know, I don't think you could necessarily do the same with the Encore GX and the other versions of that.
What is it called?
Trailblazer and the what's the GMC version? Is there a GMC version? I don't think so.
No,
there's the Terrain, which is kind of skips that. So it makes sense to me that Toyota's that big, but then you contrast them against Honda, a company that has resolutely stayed out of numerous segments.
But they added a new hybrid coupe.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say they don't make a sports car. The closest they come is a super hot hatch.
Yeah,
right.
It's a good hot hatch.
And they don't make the NSX anymore.
So they make it in 2 ways with an Acura too.
I guess that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. But in any case, they don't have, they have one pickup that has to straddle every single pickup line. And
it has to have a toe in every single potential pickup market.
So it is definitely a contrast. Is there anything else that you want to say about this 4Runner that you're lukewarm on?
Yeah, I am lukewarm on it. If it had that hybrid engine, it would push me over to the warmed up on it. I definitely warm up on that. But I guess that price, starting at like $58,000. Wait, sorry, it's not $58,000. I had a better price point here of $50,000 in the US is a decent price.
So I'm going to shift the conversation. I've been saying Trail Hunter for the last half hour, and now I have to switch that to Trailseeker. I don't know if I'm going to be successful, but that's what I drove. The 2026 Subaru Trailseeker. Now, Sami, you drove this a couple months ago?
I think less than that.
As I recall, you were not a fan.
I saw a lot of potential that was not realized, and a lot of marketing that was untruthful. Like, I don't know how else to say this.
What does that mean by untruthful for you?
They marketed an unbelievably hard to reach range estimation. Yeah.
So we'll get to that. I agree that there are aspects of this vehicle that don't live up to the hype. There are things about it that I did like. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they balance out the things that are not necessarily laudable about this design. But what this is I just want to say is about 60 times.
It's a wagon, man.
It's kind of a wagon. It's an SUV. It has 8.5 inches of ground clearance. It is intended, I think, spiritually. The marketing would love for you to think this is an electric Outback.
It's not.
Size-wise, they're different. Interior-wise, they have the same cargo space pretty much. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like it, though. I have it lined up. I had it lined up beside our own Outback. Mm-hmm. And it just feels like the current Outback, which is even bigger, has a wider, easier to access kind of cargo area. Mm-hmm. But it's really hard to understand exactly what this vehicle is, because it's not a Subaru. It's a Toyota that is in Subaru, cosplay. From the outside, it does look quite a bit like a Subaru. I think they did a much better job making this vehicle. Before we had, what was it called, Sami?
Solterra,
which was the BZ4X the Busy Forks, as Sammy is fond of calling it. It was the Busy Forks Subaru, and they looked almost the same. There was like very little difference. Now that's not true. I find that the BZ Woodland, which is what Toyota is calling their version of this, and the Trailseeker are pretty different looking, to the point where you can kind of make a case that this is Subaru-esque from the outside. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think this is it has somehow they've done a decent job of taking a badge engineered car and giving it a Subaru look.
And I like the profile. I think it looks good in profile. Like that's where the wagon stuff really comes out. If you don't look at it from the rear, where there's like a ton of plastic cladding bulking things up, it's easier to see it as not an SUV. Sammy hates when I send him, I mentioned this in the past, when I send him lowered Outbacks. So like I'm trying to picture the Trailseeker lowered, where it would
I try to be so open-minded, but sometimes you send me ones that are like, okay, this is not it.
Yeah, just open-minded is not accurate, folks. It just does not like that genre of modification. You get inside this vehicle though, and it is 1,000% Toyota. Like, including,
is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because sometimes Subaru whiffs on its interior design.
It's a bad thing for me because I personally don't like having the gauge cluster directly underneath the windshield glass, like 6 feet away from my face. It's like they were trying to decide whether they should add an HUD. And they were like, no, we're just going to push the gauge cluster as far away as we can. That way you don't need a head-up display.
You just need to squint. No, I'm joking. It's not small.
In keeping with... I will say this, though. Unlike most Toyotas, you can get things done on the infotainment screen. Like you can make various system adjustments using the infotainment screen instead of having to solely rely on this gauge cluster that's a million miles away from you and fiddling around with steering wheel controls. But everything else, all the buttons, whatnot, it's very, very Toyota. That part really takes me out of the kayfabe of this actually being a Subaru. I think maybe most people won't care. I do think that they will notice that the gauge cluster is annoying and difficult to use and far away. Other than that, though, I didn't have a ton of complaints about the infotainment. It works fine. There's another annoying Toyota thing about the interior, Sammy, and that's the pay attention to me sensor.
Oh gosh.
So
this ruined my whole experience of the car.
This sensor is located on top of the steering column. And when I say on top of the steering column, I mean it's directly where your wrist will be if you have the vehicle, if you're turning the vehicle in a parking lot, for example, and you're holding the steering in a certain position. You can turn off the attention notification thing where there's a feature where it's like, do you want to know if you're drowsy or you're not paying attention? You can turn that off. But what you can't turn off is if you block the sensor, because when that happens, when your arm is in that position, no matter what you're doing, you'll get a sign on the gauge cluster that says various features are no longer available, typically adaptive cruise control and whatnot, because this feature is blocked. If I'm in a parking lot, I don't need to know that adaptive cruise control is not available. That little warning ding makes me think that I'm backing up into something, not that a feature I'm not using is no longer working. That's annoying. But again, it's super, super Toyota.
It's really frustrating. It really ruined the entire experience for me. It was really nanny cam-ish. It really made me feel like everything I was doing was incorrect. And I don't understand how that's like a safety feature, you know?
So I want to talk about another safety feature in just a second. I'll wrap up the interior because it's fine. It was comfortable. There's enough space. No real complaints except for the Toyota-esqueness of it all. The safety features, though, there are two other things that I did not have a good experience with. The first is it has a self-steering feature, like a lane centering feature. It does not work in sharp corners. It just does not work. And it's like one of those things where everything seems like it's fine until you're about to hit something. And that it just fails at the last possible moment. I don't like that. But what I liked even less, and this is something that I have not had happen on another vehicle in 2 or 3 years. I was in a very heavy rainstorm. I was coming home. I was at low speeds and I was this happened a couple of times leading up to the Champlain Bridge in Montreal and then on the bridge itself, where I had a low speed set. I want to say 60 or 70 kilometers an hour for adaptive cruise. It could not see the vehicle in front of me and it accelerated me directly into it.
Wow, terrifying.
Times, while the cruise control stayed on and did not give me a collision warning. So not only did the cruise control fail,
Mhm.
it also failed on the safety aspect of giving me a collision warning, which you would have gotten even if cruise control was off. So
Yeah.
the rain defeated this feature, but the feature was not smart enough to know it couldn't see. That is a real problem. Because if you're relying on a feature like this, if let's say this is the first time I picked up the car. So I'm the same day I picked up the car. So I'm paying attention to all this stuff, right? But if you've been driving your car for like a month or two and you haven't been in a heavy rainstorm and adaptive cruise has worked well for you up to this point, if it starts to rain, you're not going to think, oh, I should be more vigilant because maybe the system won't work, right? You're going to trust it.
Yeah.
That was dangerous. I had to turn it off. I could not use it. The last time that happened to me was in a Mustang using Blue
Mach-E.
Cruise. No. It was a regular Mustang.
Interesting.
No, wait, maybe you're right. Maybe it was a Mach-E.
I think it was a Mach-E because it had Blue Cruise.
That's right. I was going to Toronto with it, and I was in a construction zone on the highway, again at low speed. It was raining quite a bit, and it accelerated me into another vehicle. It was really scary. So that's not great. That needs to be dealt with. In terms of what's good about the vehicle, again, kind of swinging the pendulum back once more, it has 375 horsepower, and they won't tell us how much torque. Have you noticed that?
Is that true?
It's not in any of the spec sheets, and it's also not in any. I haven't found any review, like third party, that's been able to find it. It's a little weird. So it's not necessary to know, but it is kind of strange. Like, it doesn't need to be mysterious. Anyway, it's 2-motor all-wheel drive system, 375 horsepower. It is very quick. How quick? 3.9 seconds to 60.
Yeah, that's an insane number for a Subaru EV.
It's the fastest Subaru in history. It's completely unnecessary. We don't need that much speed, but if you like it, it's there for you. I was able to spin all 4 wheels in this vehicle, which is something that does not happen very often. The downside of all that power is the range is not very good.
No, I had really poor economy with it, and range never got quite to the level that it was estimated to.
Yeah.
Now, when you told me your numbers, somehow they were worse than mine, and that doesn't usually happen.
No, I have a test loop where I drive around, usually it's between 65 and 75 miles per hour. For electric vehicles, it tends to be around 75. That's what I did with the Trailseeker. It was during that rainstorm, and it's about an 80-mile loop. So the reported range for this vehicle is 281 miles. Now, that's already 7 less than the Solterra from last year, which is weird because they have the same size battery pack. I guess because it has so much more power, maybe it's not as efficient. Okay, 7 miles, you're saying that's not such a big deal, right? I got 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. If you translate that using the 67 kilowatt hour battery size, that means I was getting 352 kilometers per charge or 220 miles per charge.
My experience didn't have 67, did it? It had 74, didn't it?
74.
I think I have more battery range. I mean, a bigger battery size.
How is that possible?
Or my specs suggested otherwise. Give me a second.
Okay, maybe I have the wrong number here.
It's possible, or maybe I'm mistaken. Just give me a sec. I remember it being maybe in the 70s.
Well, I have the spec sheet up here, and I'm trying to find if they give us the battery here. Yeah, it's advertising 446 kilometers, which I got
74.7 kilowatt hour battery, which is smaller than the 77 kilowatt hour unit on the Solterra.
Oh, you know what the difference is? Gross and net.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So it's 67.
I must have been using
67 usable.
Yes. Wow, that's a huge.
So what was your number? 74. I'll redo my calculation here. Okay, it's not a big difference.
Okay, fine.
Sorry. It ends up being 30 kilometers difference. So depending on which of these numbers you're calculating with, the vehicle gets when I was driving it, between 352 and 389 kilometers of range on a battery on a single charge. That is 60 to 100 less than advertised. It's 220 miles, or let me get this here, between 220 and 240 miles, which is 40 or 50 less than advertised as well.
Huge drop off.
That's like almost 20% worse.
Yes.
And we're talking like normal driving conditions in the summer. I wasn't doing anything special or crazy. This isn't winter time. That makes me really worried, Sammy. Like, what happens in the winter and how much charge are people going to lose when the temperature drops?
Absolutely. I mean, I had it in a really hot winter, in a hot summer, and I said it must have been because I was using so much air conditioning. I had it cranked every time I got in, and I'm imagined that, of course, having to deal with the battery temperature at that temperature, at that ambient temperature, is really uncomfortable for the car as well.
So I wanted to verify my number because it seemed like my 220 miles, which is what I use calculating on the 67 kilowatt hour battery pack, the usable, that seemed like a pretty harsh number. I checked, Car and Driver got actually worse using the same
Wow.
speeds on the highway. They had 190 miles.
What's going on?
So that's at that point you're 90 miles, sorry, 110 miles below the advertised range. A full third.
Yeah, that's brutal.
That's not great.
That's not like salvageable.
Now, in case people are thinking, oh, maybe it's how you drive, driving style, or the area you're driving in, I use the same loop for every vehicle, and a lot of EVs, and I haven't had a vehicle be this out of whack in quite a while. Like just the week before, I believe I had the EV5, and the EV5 was great. I had very similar, if not better, than what they were advertising. I have a Bolt right now that I'm driving. Shout out to the new Bolt, which we're going to talk about next week. And I'm not noticing anything out of the ordinary there yet either. So it's overall, I don't get it. Like
Puzzling. Absolutely.
it is puzzling. Especially
What about the pricing?
What about the pricing?
What are your thoughts on the pricing? Because we talked about the pricing in my.
Well, it starts at 40 US and goes up to 46. In Canada, it starts at, let me get the number here because I was just building one. It starts at, I'm sorry, that's also the US somehow. Let me get back to Canada. Build and price. It starts at 53 and it goes up to 61. It would be hard for me to recommend this over an Ioniq 5.
Yeah.
Because of the range aspect.
Yes.
I feel like in the
Hyundai, this has more space than an Ioniq 5.
Sure, but I think that the Hyundais are going to give you an honest shake.
Yeah.
When it comes to figuring out how far you can actually drive. The Mach-E, I could maybe see you choosing one of these over the Mach-E. It's smaller and more maneuverable, or at least it feels that way. And the pricing for the Mach-E can get pretty high. But like dollar for dollar, I don't really see a value argument for the Trailseeker. Again, it's not a bad vehicle, and it is very quick. But I don't like the dashboard, and I don't like the fact that I can't, for whatever reason, make the range happen. Like that just seems strange.
I agree. It was one of the weirdest parts of driving this car. I was like, again, I thought it had something to do with the weather, or maybe like teething period. What do you call it?
Break-in period. I don't know if that's a thing for EVs.
I don't know. I just had a really awful situation with it. Like that range really put me off. Recommending it unless you just want that size. If you're only getting an EV, you have to get something of this size. This is the only one to do it.
Now, I want to say something about Subaru and EVs. When are we going to get an EV from Subaru that doesn't come with an asterisk?
As in a Toyota like engineering and manufacturing?
No, as in one that like is competitive. Because
they're clearly
wow. No, but they're clearly trying. Solterra was not competitive. It just wasn't. No. And that's because the BZ it was based on wasn't. This vehicle is competitive in a lot of areas, and yet we still have this asterisk about range.
In 2 weeks, I've got the Uncharted, which is the compact EV.
It's strange. When are you picking yours up?
On the 24th, I guess.
Okay, I'm picking mine up on the 31st, like a week later.
Yeah, 24th. I'm doing it. I'm going to test it against the EV5, which is not available in the US. Right?
Yeah. So you're thinking that maybe the Uncharted might be the answer.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this is another element where pricing might help a car become more like competitive, because it's supposed to be a more affordable option, right?
Yeah.
And I also think that occasionally Subaru like knocks it out of the park with their smaller, cheaper cars.
No,
like
maybe
the Crosstrek is a pretty good offering, but the concern to me is like Toyota doesn't always do that. It doesn't really play in the lower range as well as Subaru does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Like Toyota's best car is like easiest to recommend cars are the Camry, RAV4, and maybe something else like a Highlander or a Grand Highlander, right?
Yeah.
Those are not cheap cars. They're not the entry level cars. They're not like even the Corolla gets outdone by several other options in its class. The Corolla Cross, I think, is uncompetitive unless you need to have a hybrid. So, like, to me, I'm concerned about this because the Uncharted is based on the CHR, and I'm concerned about Toyota's ability to take that seriously.
All right, I think that's all I have to say about the Trailseeker.
Okay, one more thing I want to talk about. As I mentioned last week, I have an ongoing feature going on for about a year until I resolve my problem, which is I'm looking for a new daddy car. I currently drive a Scion FRS, which is it's just not functional for ferrying two kids around.
To people who aren't in the scene what a daddy car is?
It's a car for a dad to drive, I suppose.
It's not like a bear car?
No, I don't know. No, not that.
Okay.
I want something that is both fun, like can replace some of the fun to drive elements of the FRS.
Sorry, that the technical term is bearmobile. I apologize.
And who knows if I'll actually go through with this, because my wife actually says that the scenarios in which I do not need the scenarios in which I would need to utilize the FRS don't come up enough. But that hasn't stopped me from shopping anyways. Last week I said Stinger was number 1 on my list. I've got a second option right here. It is the the 4th generation, which is 2009 to I think 2015. Acura TL super handling all-wheel drive with a manual transmission.
That's a big no from me.
Why?
I'm not into front-wheel drive bias sedans.
It's got a manual transmission. It's got this sweet all-wheel drive system that can send a good chunk of power to the rear wheels. I think 70%, which is pretty cool.
What I want to know, Sammy, is does it have a gigantic dial on the center stack next to another dial that is for volume?
I don't think. Yes, it does have a ginormous dial, but it is not. It is actually used for something. I think it's used
for drive modes. It's the gigantic drive mode. But does it have dual infotainment screens?
No, it has one infotainment screen.
Because I remember that's the period where Acura was getting frisky with how many screens can we fit in a specific area.
This is a really cool car. I've driven one early on in my career. I really enjoyed the drive. Now, 10 years later, I've learned that oil consumption in this 3.7 liter V6 is an issue, is a serious issue. And apparently, if you don't pay attention to this, it can cause some significant internal damage. And
a friend of mine who runs a Porsche race shop, shout out to AGM Performance, his partner had a TL for a very long time, and they ended up selling it, not for any reason. Like, there wasn't anything wrong with it. In fact, they were very, very satisfied with it, and it was quite reliable.
So there's a whole different story with like the generations of TL, and there's a non-all-wheel drive version of this car. The front-wheel drive version features a 3.5 liter V6 with 280 horsepower.
You don't say.
Yeah, I guess that 3.5 and that output has been around forever. But I believe that one is even more reliable than the 3.7 and the all-wheel drive. But come on, who doesn't want a manual transmission all-wheel drive sedan?
Because it's all-wheel drive asterisk.
What?
Isn't it primarily front-wheel drive until you need all-wheel drive?
Super handling all-wheel drive is like one of those awesome ones.
Starting to sound like a brochure.
Yeah, I am.
You keep saying
my main issue is there are so few of these existing on the used car market, and I have little faith that the people selling them paid attention to these oil issues that the forums and subreddits are.
Are you saying you don't trust this TL's 6th owner?
Yeah, basically. So if you are a 6th or 7th owner of an Acura TL, let me know how your experience with it has been, because I think I think it's a cool car. I remember it driving so well and having one of the best manual transmissions that I've ever driven. And I would love to see one of these in my driveways if they can get over this reliability hit, which is unusual for an Acura.
I have a counter proposal for you.
Oh, no.
Ford Fusion Sport.
yo, this is a sweet car. The latest generation with the all-wheel drive. This had even more horsepower.
Didn't that have like the 2.7 V6?
Yeah, doesn't it have like 350 horsepower?
Something crazy like that.
And there's a Lincoln version with like 400 horsepower, isn't there?
I don't know about that.
I think we drove it together on an event.
No, I've erased so many Lincoln sedans from my mind. It's like, I need to remember a new phone number. Goodbye, MKZ. You know, like that's how my brain works.
Yeah. So you think that this? I remember being impressed with the Fusion mainly because if I remember correctly, it had the biggest trunk I've ever seen in a sedan.
I know that's what you want. That's why you're into the Stinger.
I need a trunk because these strollers just keep getting bigger, and kids are annoying like that, and they have all this stuff that you need to haul all the way.
Did you have stuff when you were a kid that needed to be hauled around, or did your parents?
No.
Did your
But
parents?
we did have a minivan.
But I'm just saying, like when I was a child, I remember one folding stroller that was like the thinnest possible canvas, right? Like you could probably lift it with one finger.
Yeah, we don't live that life anymore.
There was no bag of stuff that I needed, like water and treats and all this stuff.
I think about this all the time. I think we weren't as precious to our parents as the current generation of children.
Well, they knew they could make another one. That's how it works.
But they were younger than I am now. Exactly. I don't want to go through this again.
That clock is tick tocked, man. You can't. No, I brought up the Fusion because I briefly considered it before our Outback, but they've held their value surprisingly well. And
so my thoughts with the Fusion, believe it or not, and you're going to get so annoyed at me for saying this, is if I was going to get a Fusion, I would get the plug-in hybrid.
It's a good car. I'm not annoyed with you at all.
Because that drive, the economy of that, my commute in town is perfectly suited to that.
It is a fantastic car for efficiency purposes.
Like 20 miles of range or something sad like that.
It is super boring in every other way.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that super boring was one of your criteria. So
no, it's not. So, but that's the problem, right? Like that's the major issue.
That's like me with the Maverick. Like I'm only interested in the front wheel drive hybrid, right? Like it's the only one that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I get it.
I would guess that if I could have gotten a Fusion, I would have gotten this one that I wouldn't have to spend any money on gas on. Anyways, that's my thoughts. I want to hear from our listeners if you have any more ideas or options. I have another car coming next week. It'll be interesting. I'm sure you're gonna.
Does Sammy have 52 cars that we can get through the whole year?
I do. 100% do. And what's worse is when that 52nd one comes, it's just gonna be like, oh, and he didn't buy a car. Like,
so I have a friend who's a car guy, and I think I used to annoy him because I would send him like tons of marketplace listings and talk about the cars that I wanted to buy. And I think he thought that I wasn't going to buy them. Like I would be sending him all these Datsun things before I bought my Datsun. And then like I started buying the cars I was actually interested in. And it was exactly what you just said, where it's like, oh, you know, always talking about cars, never actually doing anything. And then I started doing it and it changed the whole conversation.
He bought himself another FRS.
He bought himself a very cheap Datsun. He bought himself a very cheap Jeep. I guess he's serious when he sends me a listing.
Yeah. Anyways, lots of cool. The funny thing is that there are tons of really cool cars out there, and I think we forget about that. Given how wide the used car market really is, and how many weird things there are. I mean, a manual transmission mid-size like sedan, like the TL, is pretty cool. Like, I mean, I think that's a really neat. It's slightly larger than a 3 Series, so I like that idea.
You're not gonna sell me on it. I'm pretty entrenched, I think, when it comes
in your front wheel drive base.
Yeah. But I will say, I love the new Integra. I think that's a great front wheel drive car.
Yeah, you're all over the place with this thing. Anyways, hit us up on our website. Go on over to unnamedautomotivepodcast.com. There's a contact form there. You fill that out. It lands on our inbox. Me and Ben will talk about it. We'll bring it up on the next episode or whenever we get a chance to.
Sammy, before you wrap up, because I think some people tune out when you start saying this stuff, which is fine because you've heard it before if it's not your first time listening. But I want to say that I think that if we lived in an area where road salt and rust weren't an issue, my car buying habits would be quite different. Because if you live, like, let's say you live in, BC or Arizona or California, you have access to a lot of platforms that have no rust and they last a lot longer. Here, there's entire classes of car that just disappear after 10 to 15 years.
Disintegrate. So when was the last time you saw a Hyundai Accent?
When was the last time you saw a Dodge Intrepid,
Or Neon. Yes.
So why I'm bringing this up is when I find a car local, like when I shop on Marketplace looking for deals, it's hard to find stuff that's not rusty. And when you do find something that's not rusty and is reasonably priced, I tend to hold on to it forever because I know like I'm not going to find another one. Whereas if our market was different and we had no rust, I think I would change cars much more often than I do.
That's fair. That makes sense. I agree with that. But like, in addition to that, so many things have like weird rust points, right? Like you've talked about the weird multi-hinged like tailgates on some of the newer pickup trucks.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's going to be pure rusty in a matter of minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then same with like, what are they called? Convertibles or cabriolets, right?
Well, I mean, theoretically, a cabriolet you might be able to mitigate it by not taking it out in the winter.
Yeah.
Like your pickup truck is less likely to be stored during the snowy months, but your convertible could be.
Right. That's true.
Not always though. Some people run them, year round, and shout out to those people. I respect you, but from a preservation perspective, it's not great.
You would tell me to.
Yeah, of course. Life's too short. We're going to drive for 6 months a year and then like hibernate. That's why I bought the Pathfinder, because it was finally an enthusiast-ish vehicle I could drive all year round. I miss my WRXs for that reason too.
Going back in time and calling a Pathfinder an enthusiast-oriented car.
No, it's true. Like in the era, I would not have looked at them twice, but they grew on me. But that's true of almost every vehicle I own now. The only car I own now that I've always wanted or that I was always interested in was the CTSV. Mm-hmm. I had no interest in Grand Wagoneers growing up. I had no interest in the Pathfinder really. And I had no interest in the 280Z that I own. Datsuns did nothing for me.
That's crazy.
My godfather had a 79 that my dad now owns. And I never gave it two looks. Like it just wasn't for me. And it's weird how your brain can like come around to a different way of looking at vehicles you overlooked in the past.
Mm-hmm. I was doing the closing segment.
Yeah, everyone's tuned out already because he already started it. So no one's listening to this part of the podcast.
Just send us an email if you don't want to do all the rigmarole with the website. It's really hard going on websites these days. I think you need AI to do it for you, which is awful. Don't do that.
This podcast will never, ever engage in any type of generative AI, just so you know.
100% will not do that. We will make a promise.
We have made that
promise. We made that promise. Anyways, Benjamin at Benjamin at benjaminhunting.com is the email address.
Try.net. I don't know what will happen.
We won't get it.
Somebody else will. Someone has to read that.
Oh no. Yeah, it's like the most comprehensive thought process on the Acura TL that we'll never get. Hit us up on Blue Sky. I'm at Sami at Sami dash.
Oh no, the fish is in the boat.
Not this again. At Sami dash had, like you're laughing. Nobody will get that because it's a pre-show inside joke. You can find Ben at Hunting Benjamin. This is how we end our shows now, with a pure nonsensical rant of some sort. Thank you everyone for listening. Next week I've got the Acura MDX Type S. Ultra? It's got a weird name.
That is weird. Ultra the next 100 years?
Maybe. I don't think it has the weirdest name. I got to look at this.
And next week, I have the brand new single model year Chevrolet Bolt RS.
Bolt RS.
Bolt
Love
RS.
It. What a weird... Yeah, we've talked about this. It's weird that they have decided to put an end date on the tombstone.
Yeah, before it was born. So thank you for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.